Hello, loves! It's Kat here. Welcome into today's video where I will be teaching you all how to make a protection bowl. I'm really excited to share this tool with you all because it's something that I was gifted the insight to create these spiritual bowls maybe about a year to a year and a half ago. And ever since I started using them and working with them, things have just felt so clean and clear when it comes to my sense of spiritual and energetic protection. And over these past couple weeks, I've been feeling this guidance to share these magical healing bowls of protection with you all, okay? But before we get into actually creating the bowl and sharing the ingredients that make up these protection bowls, I want to talk a little bit about protection in itself and the overall intentions and purpose as to why you may want to use or work with a protection bowl in your spiritual practice, okay? So number one, we are going to be using these protection bowls for spiritual and energetic protection. Okay, this is like an additional layer of protection when it comes to the energy of spirit and our energetic auras and environments. Okay, so if you are in a space where you do not feel safe or protected physically, this is not a tool that you would be using. I would really encourage and advise you to seek out professional help to help you move into a space where you are able to feel physically safe and protected, okay? Okay, now with that being said, the other thing before I get into the deeper intentions as to why we would want to use a protection, spiritual protection and energetic protection bowl is the number one means on my journey, what I've learned, okay, the number one means of creating a sense of protection in your life, spiritually, physically, energetically, mentally, and emotionally, is to make sure every single day that you are showing up for yourself and you are meeting your physical needs of self-care. You're tending to your physical self-care needs, you're tending to your emotional needs, to your mental needs, and your spiritual needs, okay? And that's going to look different for everyone, okay? So I'll share a personal example with you. You know, you all know in the past that I have struggled with like mental health, depression, anxiety. Recently, I went through a trauma loss where I was battling with grief. And when I was in that space, there were moments where I did not feel a sense of safety and protection in my life. And creating a protection bowl is not something that would have helped me to feel a deeper sense of safety and protection during those times. I had to do the deeper work of making sure that I was meeting my immediate physical needs and working through what I was feeling on a mental and emotional level, okay, before I could feel that deeper sense of safety and protection in my individual life, okay? So that's just an example, but it's going to be different for everyone. You know, there are different things that you may be going through that can bring up different emotions or thoughts that you know, you may need to work through in order to feel a deeper sense of safety and protection within your own physical and spiritual body, okay? All right, love. So with that being said, why would we create a protection bowl? So for me personally, the guidance that I received when I started working with these protection bowls was for two different reasons. So for one, we would want to use these spiritual protection bowls anytime that we are doing spiritual work, either for yourself as an individual or for other individuals, okay? This can also have the use of like spiritual implications of, you know, if you feel like there's like a spirit in your home, you may want to create a spiritual protection bowl to help kind of absorb that energy. But we'll get more into that when we talk about the energetic reasons for it, okay? But for the spiritual protection, it's definitely going to be when you're doing individual spiritual work for yourself or for others. So anytime I'm doing spiritual work for others, or I'm creating like guidance just like this, or creating guidance on my YouTube channel when I'm making the readings for everybody, I always create a spiritual bowl of protection because it's just an added layer of protection. All right. So then the other reason that we would want to create a protection bowl is for energetic protection and cleansing. Okay, so this guidance actually came to me when somebody really close to me was going through a breakup. Okay, they were going through a disconnect with a relationship in their life. And it was funny, I mean, not funny, but it was really interesting because we were both getting this guidance that the person they were disconnecting from kept directing really negative, nasty energy towards them. And so I told this person that I was connected with, I said, make a spiritual protection bowl. And they said the very next day, all right, we're going to be putting lemons in it. The very next day, the lemons were all shriveled up as if it was like taking all that negative energy that was being directed at the individual that I was connected with. They were like absorbing all that negative energy as a means of protection. So it was kind of, being absorbed into the protection bowl and not being directed at the individual that they were directing it at. Okay, so anytime you're going through a disconnect or a breakup in a relationship, you may want to create a spiritual protection bowl for an added layer of protection, and so that it can also cleanse the energy that you're cutting cords with. Another reason would be if you are receiving really heavy dreams, all right, like nightmares, just dreams that you wake up from feeling, really sad, feeling overwhelmed, feeling anxious. Putting a protection bowl next to your bedside or just in the same room that you're sleeping in will help to absorb that energy and help to create a safer, more peaceful space when you're in your dreamland. Okay. All right, let's see if anything else, if we want to talk about anything else with the energetics. I think that was it. All right, love. So just a quick recap. We are creating these protection bowls for spiritual and energetic protection. Oh, the other one was the spirits. Okay, so if you ever feel like you have some, strange energy, like kind of lingering in your house or specific rooms, you may also want to create a protection bowl to help kind of absorb that energy and kind of cleanse out that spirit. Another good tip that's coming through is to open up your doors and windows and kind of clean up a little bit, like dust and sweep, get the stagnant energy kind of flowing and give that spirit somewhere to flow towards. Okay, that was definitely like coming in from spirit there. And then add in this protection bowl after you clean up and air out the space that you're in, because then it will definitely, move along to other avenues. All right, loves. So let's get into it. We are going to create this protection bowl together today. And so a big thing about this is that we are using things that come from, not things, these are like living, breathing beings that Mama Earth, Gaia, has gifted to us. So we are using the medicine of the earth, all right? And the earth is a safe space that wants to hold us in the energy of love, safety, and protection. That's what the earth was always meant to be for us. And so that's why I really felt guided to use these ingredients to create a deeper sense of safety and protection in my sacred spaces when I'm doing spiritual work, or when I feel there's some negative energy lingering or being directed at me, or even if I'm like, working through some heavier shadows. This can be an added layer of safety and protection in our sacred spaces while we're working through that energy. Okay, so let's get into it today, loves. All right, so I know I'm saying protection bowl, and then here I am, showing up with a plate, but this plate does have a little bit of a lip around it, and so I love to use these plate bowls specifically when creating these protection bowls. And so you can use any bowl that you feel called to. I definitely recommend using a bowl that brings you a sense of safety and love and peace when you're admiring it, when you're looking looking at it, okay? And so of course, you know, I love pink, I love flowers. Flowers of the earth are symbolized on here, and these all look like little hearts to me, so I always choose this little plate bowl when I am creating my personal protection bowls, okay? The second thing that we're going to need is salt, okay? We're going to need salt, and so I've got my salt here. I've also got this sea salt here, but I usually just use iodized salt. All right, and then we are going to need lemons. All right, lemons, garlic. And then, so the two main ingredients are going to be salt and lemons. If you don't have one or the other, that's okay. You can just use what you have. Okay, use what's available to you. You don't have to go out and buy a bunch of things. And it's even better if you don't have to buy it and you can just pick it naturally from the earth and use that, okay? Use that medicine that's available to you right in your backyard or garden. Personally, I live in a city, and I did have a balcony garden for a little bit, but I ended up clearing it out when I was going through that time of processing grief, and so I'm working on getting it back. All right, but that's a little sidetrack there. But yes, just use what's available to you, use what you have, or, you know, if you're out grocery shopping for the week, you can just, you know, pick up a bottle of salt, pick up a few extra lemons or garlic cloves and work with that. The other thing that I have here is I have some rosemary herbs. All right, and then I also have a little bit of ground sage. And then I also have some cinnamon sticks, all right? But these are all optional. I don't usually use all these extra ingredients. Usually I just use salt, lemons, garlic, and sometimes I'll put a little bit of rosemary or even like basil or bay leaves in it. Sometimes ginger. And there was one other one. Oh, also you can put like a sprinkle of pepper or cayenne pepper in it to give it a little extra kick if you're feeling like this really heavy energy being like directed at you that you just really want to kind of push back and kick away from you, okay? All right, love, so let's go ahead and get started and make our salt bowl today. So I'm just going to pour the salt. I usually kind of pour it in a circle. But you can do, you know, however you want. Okay, and something that I like to do is I don't usually touch what's in my bowl once I put it in there. So like I won't go in and move the salt around, but if you feel like that's something that you want to do, you totally can. All right, so I feel like that's good. And then I already sliced up the lemons here. So we are going to take these out and I'm just going to place them there. And I usually won't put like the whole lemon. I'll usually just put a few. It's kind of falling over. But you know, I just let the medicine of the earth do what it wants to do, fall where it wants to fall. All right, and then we'll use this garlic clove here because it's already sprouting a bit. So I love to use these sprouting pieces. All right, and garlic is a really good herb of protection. And so the lemons, let's talk a little about the lemons. So the lemons will actually kind of work as a means of absorption. So once you see that the lemons have shriveled up, that's when you know it's time to dump it out and change the protection bowl. Let's do a small one. Oh, look at this little baby one. I love to use these baby ones. All right, so we'll put one here and then we'll put another one there. And sometimes usually I don't do that many. I'll only usually do about 3 lemons and then I'll do like 4 garlics. But you can do however you want, however you feel called to. Just, it's very, very intuitive. And see that my hand kind of slipped and the rosemary went wherever it wanted to go. And so I feel like that's just, you know, intuition taking over, spirit putting it where it wants to go. Rosemary is a beautiful herb of protection. I used to have a rosemary bush in my garden. And I miss it so much because it's like the, you know, it's recommended to like put it at the gate of your garden because it serves as a means of protection. And then we put just a little bit of sage in there. All right. Just a little bit more. All right. And then we'll just say thank you. Thank you to these herbs for creating this sense of safety and protection in our safe spaces. And the whole while you're making it, you want to envision and think about and reflect on what it is that you're asking for safety and protection from in the spiritual and energetic realms. And also how you want to feel, okay? And so again, this is our spiritual protection bowl that we created. And so once the lemons are all shriveled up, usually 2 to 3 days, depending, like if it's like something that you're receiving like negative energy being directed at you and you haven't created this before, the lemons may shrivel up in 1 day or even in a couple hours. And so you just want to kind of toss them out, throw them in the trash. You can also go and bury them somewhere away from your home, but I recommend just tossing it in the trash or composting it and letting it be. And then create a new one if you feel called to. But if it's not, if you're like me, you're doing spiritual work all the time, because I'm constantly making these spiritual bowls, I'll usually use them for about 2 to 3 days, because that's when the lemons will start to shrivel up. And then I know it's time to toss it out and create a new one. I do have the cinnamon sticks here as well, but we're not going to use these today. We're just going to leave them aside. But again, you can use any herbs that you feel intuitively called to work with. You can use limes or oranges if you don't have lemons, any type of citrus. If you don't have lemons, just use the salt and garlic. If you don't have salt, just use the garlic and lemons. Work with what you have, work with what's available to you, and always trust your intuition and the guidance that you're receiving from your higher self, God, your angels and ancestors, and spirit team above all. All right, loves, so that's it for today. Let me know what you think. And if you create your own, I would love to know, love to see the magic and beauty you create with the medicine we are gifted from the earth to create a deeper sense of safety and protection in your spiritual and energetic work. All right, loves, thank you so much. I'm sending you so much love and healing and safety and protection. Until next time, bye, loves.